Is PlayStation beating Xbox at their own game? What is up, y'all? I'm Ray, and this is my channel, Xbox Ready, where we get on and we talk about Xbox stuff. The latest news, rumors, games, accessories, pretty much anything I want to talk about as long as it's about Xbox in some way. Now, this is a tale as old as time. Xbox versus PlayStation. For years, they were locked, going head to head, until inevitably PlayStation pulled away and took a very, very noticeable and sizable lead in the actual console war. But even so, to this day, whenever one company does something, people look to the other, whether it's PlayStation or Xbox, and they say, okay, how are you going to answer? For most of this generation, for as long as I've had the channel, the big question on everyone's mind was, hey, Xbox, when are you going to get some first-party exclusives on par with the ones that we see on PlayStation? When Xbox Game Pass started picking up steam, a lot of people looked to PlayStation and they were like, hey, when are you going to get your own game subscription type service? Sony releases a digital PlayStation 5. People are like, hey, Xbox, when are you going to have a digital Series X? Not an S, a digital Series X. And the back and forth just kept escalating. But there was always one thing that seemed to be off limits for Sony, for PlayStation. And that's shipping their former first-party games over to Xbox. We know that Xbox has been doing that willy-nilly with a lot of their most historic franchises. But it was widely believed that, okay, Xbox is doing that because they're kind of pivoting away from hardware. They're trying to build this ecosystem where PlayStation, they're going to remain traditional. They're going to have a console, they're going to have exclusives to sell that console, and that's just the way it's going to go. But then very slowly, very sneakily, the cracks started to form in that line of thinking. It started off small. At first, PlayStation was like, okay, MLB The Show, we got to put this on Xbox because we're basically being forced to, but don't jump to any conclusions. It's just going to be that one game. Fast forward to today, and the story is completely different. Not too long ago, we saw a job posting from Sony, specifically looking for a person to spearhead a sort of multi-platform approach, where they name-dropped Xbox specifically. And on August 26th, time stood still. A great cultural exchange happened between the two platforms when Gears of War Reloaded was put on PlayStation consoles for the first time, and in exchange, Helldivers 2 came to Xbox that same day. Hundreds of thousands of people have been enjoying Helldivers 2 on Xbox. Sony and Arrowhead, they're making a ton of money off this port. It's currently the best-selling game on the Xbox platform. Go on over to the other side, Gears of War Reloaded, it's not doing so hot on PlayStation consoles, especially when you compare the numbers to Helldivers 2 on Xbox. So now all the headlines are, whoa, a former PlayStation exclusive is currently #1 on Xbox. Is Sony once again stealing the spotlight from Xbox? Are they beating them at their own game, this whole multi-platform gambit? In my opinion, I think we gotta pump the brakes on that talk. Helldivers 2 is absolutely the kind of game that would do well on Xbox, that would resonate with their fans. Xbox players, we love our shooters. We love our third-person shooters. After generations of playing Gears, we love that stuff. Helldivers 2 also had a whole year's worth of hype around it. It's proven to be massively popular on PlayStation, on Steam, and for the past year, Xbox fans have been seeing all of this really awesome content coming from this game, of these epic last stands against terminated hordes, all the crazy things that you can do with these ordinances. Xbox fans were absolutely, they wanted this shit injected into their vein. So I'm not surprised that it's selling like gangbusters when it finally released on Xbox. Gears of War Reloaded, on the other hand, at its core, it's still just the first Gears. It's been out for forever. In the almost 20 years that it's been out, if you're a PlayStation fan, there's a very good chance that maybe you knew someone with a 360 and you've already played through it before. And whereas Helldivers 2, that's a game that I see really resonating with the Xbox fan base, Gears of War Reloaded, not so much with the PlayStation fan base. Sure, there's the appeal of, oh, I've never got to play this before because it's always been an Xbox exclusive. But just from my point of view, it seems that outside of like the big shooters like Call of Duty, Apex Legends, Fortnite, all of the like live servicey type shooters, PlayStation fans, they don't really seem to like shooters in the same way that Xbox guys do. That's probably why PlayStation, even though they have a rich catalog, they have a ton of IP of first-person shooters specifically, they don't make games in those franchises anymore. I'm thinking about Resistance, I'm thinking about Killzone. So yeah, as far as that broad appeal to a lot of PlayStation fans, I don't think Gears of War necessarily has that. Maybe I'll be proven wrong if Gears of War E-Day comes to PlayStation and everyone loves it. But Xbox has already kind of figured this out though. Not every game that they put onto PlayStation or any other platform not every game is gonna sell a shit ton of copies. Sure, stuff like Forza Horizon 5, Sea of Thieves, Call of Duty, it's gonna do really well on PlayStation, but nobody ever talks about, oh my god, Pentiment is selling so many copies on PlayStation, Hi-Fi Rush selling so many copies. It's also about like what's available. Are the games that either of these platform holders porting over, whether it's PlayStation or Xbox, filling a need or a hole in their existing catalog of games? So when Xbox puts over Forza Horizon 5, PlayStation, they don't really have a game like that, so of course they're gonna spring for it. Helldivers 2 comes on over to Xbox. Yeah, we have a lot of shooters, but not like Helldivers 2, so of course, a bunch of people are gonna spring for it. Because I see a lot of people looking at the success of Helldivers 2 on Xbox and being like, okay, Sony's gonna put all their games on Xbox now, it's a lock. The success of Helldivers 2 on Xbox, it bodes well for Sony considering putting other games that were formerly exclusive, porting them over. But it doesn't mean that the floodgates are necessarily open, because not every game is gonna be Helldivers 2 in terms of hype, in terms of sales. A lot of Xbox games selling very, very well when they come on over to PlayStation. A lot of games in that top 10 in terms of the PlayStation Store. Sure, maybe PlayStation, Sony, they can copy that, just do a shotgun approach, bring all their games over to Xbox, but I really don't think that's gonna happen. They're gonna be a lot more careful, a lot stingier, and sure, while they could make a lot of money, they don't know for sure if the Xbox fan base is gonna respond in the same way they have to Helldivers 2 to the rest of their catalog. The only other game that I can really think of that's like former PlayStation exclusive that is, you know, kind of gives us a taste of what their other games would be like is when Death Stranding came on over to Xbox. It sold decently when it came out from what I saw, but didn't make a ton of noise. And then of course, every time a Final Fantasy game comes on over, especially compared to Helldivers 2, it doesn't seem to do nearly as well. So those are all things that PlayStation is going to consider before they're just like, okay, put all of our games over on Xbox, open the floodgates, baby. But at this point, you cannot deny that it kind of feels like PlayStation is copying Xbox. Not just with the multi-platform stuff. I was catching up on all of the rumors surrounding the PlayStation 6 lineup. How not only they're gonna have a PlayStation 6, but they're also gonna be having a handheld, and they're also gonna be putting out some sort of like PlayStation 6e device, like some sort of like equivalent to the Series S, but the PlayStation 6 version. And when I saw that, I just kind of like, what? Like, what are you talking about, man? For the past 4 years, I've seen nothing but people bitching and moaning about the Series S, blaming the world's problems on the Series S, blaming Xbox's problems on the Series S. It's ruining gaming. Why would Xbox intentionally hold back the industry by putting out this cheap, dumbass console? You had people acting like the Series S killed their mom or something. And you're telling me that next generation, PlayStation is gonna do pretty much the exact same thing. And let me guess, when it comes out, everyone's gonna be glazing them. Oh my gosh, PlayStation, you're amazing. This is the best idea ever. When all of the same logic applies, why make a flagship console and then make an underpowered console that developers have to make another version of their game, if that's what it's gonna be? Because it sure sounding like it. It's not like a digital PlayStation 5 like we saw this generation. It's like a separate SKU. Is this another example of Xbox just being a little bit too early to the trend? The only reason why I think they would do this is to combat the rising cost of consoles and hardware, especially when it comes to manufacturing and shipping them, which is a good idea. Yes, we are heading towards a generation where consoles are going to be crazy expensive. Xbox, PlayStation, Switches. So yeah, that's a good idea to come out with an alternative if people don't want to blow a bunch of cash on your flagship PlayStation 6. And that's what makes it a good idea that Xbox put out the Series S. Hey, you don't want to blow your money, $500 on a Series X. You just want like a basic gaming machine, 1440p, 30 FPS. Buy the Series S for a lot cheaper. But that's not how that's not how people treated it. What was even more surprising was all this talk about their handheld. We had heard whispers that they were working on a handheld, and obviously they're no strangers to it with the PSP, with the PS Vita. But the shocking thing was the headlines were saying it's going to be more powerful than the Xbox Ally X and way cheaper. Obviously, one of the big controversies surrounding the Xbox Ally, even though it's not even out yet, even though we don't even know what the price is going to be, is that we're operating under the understanding that it's going to be pretty damn expensive, like $800, $900, maybe even $1,000 range. And so these articles come out saying that the PlayStation 6 handheld is going to be, what, like $350 to $500? Price range wise being more competitive with the Switch 2. That's obviously pretty shocking. Sounds almost too good to be true, but I'm wondering, okay, if Sony can figure it out, if PlayStation could figure it out, that gives me just a smidge more hope about the first party Xbox handheld that we are assuming they're still working on because Sarabon said so. Maybe we could have this Xbox handheld that does play Xbox console games natively, no streaming, no remote play. And maybe that console could be $500, $600 maybe, tops. But all that stuff's in the future though. Let's pull on back to the present. In the present day, they are releasing, guess what, new Xbox controllers, as if there's not enough of those out in the world, as if I personally don't have dozens and dozens of dozens to the point where I just give them away. And yet for some reason, I still kind of want these. I have a problem, y'all. The other day, they introduced the Breaker variant controller. And at first I was like, okay, this is kind of lame because it just kind of looks like the camo versions of these console wraps that I have. But no, the design is a little different. The coloring might be the same, but the design's a little different and it actually looks pretty cool. They dropped a pretty dope trailer for it. I personally wouldn't go for the blue or the purple pink Pop-Tart looking controller that they got going on, but the Stormbreaker actually looks pretty dope, I'm not gonna lie. They're available for pre-order right now. They seem to be in stock because I'm able to put them in my pre-order cart, and it says I can get it as soon as September 10th. It's up to you though, whether or not you wanna spend another $80 on a controller when you can easily spend that on, again, something like Helldivers 2 or another game, maybe Hollow Knight Silksong. You know what you can't spend it on is Perfect Dark. Obviously that was canceled as part of all of these crazy Microsoft layoffs that affected the gaming division and their studio specifically. A lot of people were hyped about this game. I was of the camp of like, okay, yeah, this game, the idea sounds cool, the concept, you know, I could get behind that, sure, but when it was ultimately canceled, I was like, well, you know, I'm not really a fan of the franchise like that, so I'm not gonna lose any sleep over it. But if you were really hyped about this game, there was hope that it was still gonna get made. According to Bloomberg, Take-Two was actually in talks to buy the Perfect Dark IP and continue work on this game. But that hope has officially been dashed because talks fell through, and allegedly a big sticking point was the ownership of the actual name Perfect Dark. Beyond this game, who gets to retain the rights for Perfect Dark and continue making games in that franchise? All of that culminates in what is not necessarily a great look for Xbox. They shut down the studio, the initiative, they cancel work on this game entirely, and they're just gonna apparently sit on the IP and do nothing with it. I saw a tweet saying that even if they did change hands and Take-Two took over, they would need like an additional $80 to $90 million just to finish this game, which is crazy. Like, it was what, 5-6 years almost since we got that announcement, and all we got of it was like a little vertical slice of gameplay with features that people didn't even know were going to make it into the final product or be the same as they were in this test build. That's crazy, but I also understand how it could be frustrating for fans because Xbox is going to hold on to this IP. Who knows when they're going to want to do anything with it, especially after they just burned millions and millions of dollars and all this time and showed up with nothing. From a company standpoint, I sort of get it though. It's like you don't want to let go of your ex entirely. Like, you may not be entirely happy with them, but you don't want them to be happier with someone else, more successful with someone else. My hope is that Xbox would pass off Perfect Dark to one of their existing studios, but I can't think of one that's not super busy at the moment. A lot of people are saying Machine Games, they could do really well, especially with what they showed us in Indiana Jones, but from my understanding, they are swamped right now. So yeah, who knows when we're gonna get anything Perfect Dark related. Anyways, guys, that's all the Xbox stuff I have to talk about today. Thanks so much for joining me for another edition of Xbox Ready. If you made it this far into the video, consider subscribing. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.